it. And there were two really meaningful games last night. I think the emotions that surrounded the restart got everybody caught up in what was going on. Here are a couple of things that come to mind when I think about last night. One, the fact that they had live fans, not actually there, but live fans on the video boards was amazing. Now, when I first saw it, I thought that's digital. That can't be real. These aren't live fans that are interacting and responding to what's happening on the court in real time. But then I thought back to the Scottie Pippen interview that we did a couple of days ago when Mick Ultra, and you can log into Mick Ultra and get an opportunity to be a part of the broadcast. I was like, wait, are those actual fans that are watching this thing live via their, I'm sure, laptops and showing up on an actual court? I mean, the setup that Major League Baseball or that the NBA has, it's so different from what Major League Baseball has. Major League Baseball has these empty seats. They try to digitally stick fans in there, and it just doesn't work, right? It's just like you hit a home run and there's no fans, but then all of a sudden there's fans there. Then you go back and show a replay and there's no fans there. It didn't look right for Major League Baseball. But the NBA, because they've blacked out basically the whole court and stuck up these video boards that make it seem like not make it seem like there's actual digital fans sitting there courtside, was a great look. I know it's not an ideal situation for anyone, but I think the NBA did that phenomenally. And for a while, it took me a minute to wait, are those actual fans? It actually was actual fans. So kudos to the NBA. This restart has gone about as perfect as you can imagine. Obviously, we talked about this yesterday. 2 weeks in a row now in the Orlando bubble, they have not had a positive COVID test, despite a couple of guys leaving, including Zion and Lou Williams, to the strip club, Magic City, Kitchen to get his wings. We also haven't, but we have seen other sports that have had some issues, and Major League Baseball is the one we're talking about. But in basketball, this bubble has worked about as good as you could imagine. So kudos to them as well. Now, the two games that were last night, they were fun. One, because they were competitive. I mean, both games went down basically to the last shot. And I don't know if I would have expected that after not having played for 4.5 months. These guys are out there on the court playing the game like it's, they're in the postseason. These are just seeding games. These are just games to try to get themselves right. But the action and the intensity felt like, man, we're coming down the stretch in a regular season or in the postseason already. I thought it was awesome. And I think that the Lakers and the Clippers had to be that way to make statements for their seasons. Now, we'll get to them in a second, but let's start with the first game. The first game was the Utah Jazz taking on the Zion Williamson led New Orleans Pelicans. Well, that's at least what we thought it was going to be about, right? We talked about this often. The way that this 22-game setup has been constructed is odd. It's imbalanced. When you look at the East versus the West, there are 9 teams out of the East and 13 teams, 5 extra teams outside of the postseason conversation in the West. And, we speculate and we kind of just throw cynically out there, the reason they do that is because they want to get the Pelicans, and that is Zion Williamson, some more airtime because he's one of the most popular basketball players that have come out of college in the last decade or so. You just want to see him. The problem with all of this is that the New Orleans Pelicans only played Zion Williamson for 15 minutes. He scored 13 points in those 15 minutes, but he only played 15 minutes. And it's really interesting when you listen to, I guess the best word is frustration that comes from not only Zion, but the head coach, Alvin Gentry. Not going to stick him back out there. The first thing I thought when I heard that was, aren't you the coach, right? Aren't you in charge of this? Did you have any input? What we heard in the break was that the break from the 4-month break was that Zion was in great shape. He'd been working his butt off. We obviously know that he had the knee injuries before in the summer league and in the preseason and in the NBA. So only played 19 games in the regular season. But 4.5 months is enough to get right, you would think, and to get healthy and to get into great shape. And the videos that we saw of him, he looked like he was in unbelievable shape coming into the restart, into the Orlando bubble. And so I'm scratching my head a little bit because we created this conversation around the NBA and bringing Zion into the bubble with the 5 teams, extra teams, I should say, in the Western Conference, and they have a shot to make the postseason. Why wouldn't you play your best player? And he was at times the best player on the court, at least when he was out there for those 15 minutes. Dishing a rock, he had a sweep behind the back, pass to Lonzo Ball, who was cutting to the rim, and he scored 13 points in 15 minutes. He is the catalyst of the New Orleans Pelicans. And I wonder if the Pelicans are being overly cautious with Zion. Yes, obviously I'm biased because I want to see Zion play. I want to see this young kid ascend on the national stage of the NBA. But, don't you think if you're the Pelicans, you want to try to get to the postseason? They're 4 games out right now of the 8th seed. And if they keep winning, or if they win, they lost last night, obviously, but if they keep winning and they get close enough to being the 9 seed, so the top 9 seed of the teams that are remaining, they can get into the playoff or at least the play-in game with probably the Memphis Grizzlies right now. And if you're giving me 2 games for the Pelicans to try to beat the Memphis Grizzlies, I might put my money on the Pelicans, but only if Zion Williamson is playing more than 15 minutes. Yeah, no, I know that's frustrating for him. It has to be frustrating for him because exactly what we just said. He's been working for 4 months to get healthy and to get right. Yes, we know that he had the family emergency and he had to leave the bubble, but he's an elite freak athlete. Why not let him, try to stay in and at least put him in at the end of the game to try to get some minutes and win? And that's what was most frustrating. We speculated that he was going to be on some sort of minutes limitation, and that proved to be the case. But when the game got tight down the stretch, it's not like either team was running away. When the game got tight, let the kid get in and feel that emotion, because these games matter. Right? He says, maybe once I get my win, maybe once I, get a couple of games in. You got 8 of them. You got 8 of them to get to be the 9th seed in the Western Conference, and in less than 4 games, behind the 8th seed. You only got 8 of them. So now they only got 7, and you already lost 1. This doesn't make sense to me, unless the Pelicans don't care about the postseason this year. And that very well could be the case. They just don't care about the postseason. Maybe we'll ask our guest in the next segment, Ryan McDonough, what the New Orleans Pelicans were thinking with Zion Williamson. I was frustrated watching it because I wanted to see Zion be the savior for the Pelicans in that game. It's just the restart. It's just 1 of 8 that he's potentially going to play, but it's also 1 of 8 that's helping them get closer to being in the postseason. You may not be ready to win. Yeah, you might take on the Lakers in round 1 of the postseason. But I would guarantee you, if you're Zion Williamson or Alvin Gentry, you want that experience for your young team. They might get wiped. They might get swept by the Lakers. But I promise you, it would be worth it. Minute limitations when Zion was still banged up, but 4 months after the season stopped, and he's healthy? Yeah, I'm not buying into that one. 855-212-4227. What do you think about Zion? What do you think about the Pelicans' decision not to play Zion? Now, we're going to get to the Lakers, too, in a second here. The Lakers, we'll talk to Ryan McDonough about them. They played like they were trying to prove a point. And that point was that it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, doesn't matter who we're playing, doesn't matter who we've lost, you better be ready to play us. Anthony Davis was on, LeBron was off, but they snuck out a win because LeBron, he's LeBron.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.